Next up is the oratory, the core of our monthly program in which we hear of deep topics of interest to our members and guests. Today, Ben Bradley is going to present technological unemployment and the S word. Come on up, Ben.
I've had an interest in science and technology all my life, and this interest extends to how these fields affect society. The way I knew or yet to be technological change affects the lives of one or more individuals, or even everyone as a whole, is, to quote a certain science officer, fascinating. There is a plethora of examples of how technological changes have transformed our lives. Many articles on such advances reference Moore's law representing exponential growth of technology, or the technological singularity, a possible future where technological change will outpace all human understanding. Today I'll mention only a few examples by which I hope to show a surprising trend that has deep economic and social consequences that will change our lives in unexpected ways, even well before we reach any so-called singularity. Starting in 2007, there was a substantial economic downturn. Its specific and purported cause was the mortgage loan crisis, which became a larger financial crisis, which affected economies worldwide and resulted in years of high unemployment. One aspect that has made this recession different from previous economic upsets is that the recovery by any measure, but especially as measured by the unemployment rate, has been the slowest and longest in memory. The real reasons are surely many and complex, but a contributing factor has been technological advances displacing jobs. Another measure of the health of the economy, one that gets less mentioned in the media, is underemployment. This attempts to measure those holding jobs paying less than their previous jobs, or recent college graduates working in jobs paying less than traditional degree jobs in their field. Underemployment has been at record numbers within the last decade. The middle-class workers must then find and accept lesser paying jobs or work several part-time jobs to make ends meet. This puts even more pressure on the poor, who, being less qualified, have an even harder time competing for lower paying jobs. Remarkably, the latest official figures show both unemployment and underemployment have gone down substantially to pre-recession levels. Certainly this is a good thing for the economy, but one must wonder what the trend is for the longer term. Is this lower unemployment part of a return to the status quo of previous decades with a solid and large middle class and where almost every college graduate gets a good job? Or is it just a blip, a temporary reversal of a new long-term trend of growing unemployment and underemployment caused largely by advances in technology? Do the current employment statistics even reflect reality? Do they measure the same things they did years and decades ago? I've read claims that the criteria used to measure unemployment are different from a decade ago, and methods have been manipulated with the intention of making current unemployment numbers look better than previous criteria would indicate. As I'm not an economics expert, I can't tell whether such claims are based on reality or on politics, but it's obvious that over the last several decades, the economy has been a big roller coaster. Regardless of the present economic state, the future holds great promise of putting people out of work. The self-driving car is one example you may have heard about. Prototypes were successfully demonstrated almost a decade ago in the DARPA Urban Challenge. Not only are all car manufacturers funding their own research. So are two of the largest technology companies, Google and Apple. I believe they are the two largest technology companies. For a measure of the possible impact, there are about 5 million people who drive for a living. At the current rate of development of self-driving vehicles, all of them could lose their jobs within perhaps 20 years. A book by Martin Ford was published in 2005, summer of last year, titled Rise of the Robots, Technology and the Threat of a Jobless Future. The author has given many interviews, written many articles, and even published several excerpts from his book discussing this phenomenon. There is hardly better clickbait than an online article with a title like, "You're going to lose your job permanently and this is why." Martin Ford is saying much the same things others have said for many years, that continued advances in technology will replace more and more of the jobs people now do, and unlike previous times, there will not be enough new jobs to replace them. The book is compelling and is largely the basis for my talk. Salon published an excerpt from Rise of the Robots titled, "Robots Are Coming for Your Job, Amazon, McDonald's, and a Next Wave of Dangerous Capitalist Disruption." The latest products by Momentum Machines are used in the newest McDonald's, the world's first completely robotic restaurant with no employees. This restaurant does not have lower prices, but rather attracts customers by offering upscale gourmet hamburgers, custom made at the same prices as traditional fast food restaurants. The article quotes Momentum Machines co-founder Alexandros Valakostas, being very forthright about the company's objective. "Our device isn't meant to make employees more efficient," he said, "it's meant to completely obviate them." This quote from the article shows the worldwide nature of automation, putting people out of work. Given the companies like Foxconn are introducing robots to perform high-precision electronic assembly in China, there is little reason to believe that machines won't also eventually be serving up hamburgers, tacos, and lattes across the fast food industry. The problem of technological unemployment is not limited to lower-paying jobs in fast food assembly and warehouse work. An article in MIT Technology Review titled "How Technology is Destroying Jobs" claims that impressive advances in computer technology, from improved industrial robotics to automated translation services, are largely behind the sluggish employment growth of the last 10 to 15 years. Even more ominous for workers, the MIT academics foresee dismal prospects for many types of jobs as these powerful new technologies are increasingly adopted not only in manufacturing, clerical, and retail work, but in professions such as law, financial services, education, and medicine. This is technological unemployment. I'm reminded of a TV commercial from the 1970s. An American couple are vacationing overseas when the man loses his wallet. Wondering what to do, he goes to the hotel clerk and says, "I lost my wallet. It had everything, my ID, my traveler's checks." Some of you youngers may want to look on Wikipedia for checks and things. The clerk says, "Oh, no problem. The American Express office is just across the street. They'll replace your traveler's checks." The man explains further, "But they weren't American Express." The clerk gives a bewildered look and shrugs his shoulders as if to say, "Sorry, I can't help you." Along comes the voice of the then well-known actor Carl Malden, asking the rhetorical question, "What will you do? What will you do?" So what will these people do whose jobs are replaced by automation and whose jobs will not be coming back? this will be an increasing social problem, as not just millions but tens of millions of able-minded and able-bodied adults become unable to make a living. Toward the end of his book, Rise of the Robots, Martin Ford offers a solution. Many of you may be shocked to hear it. The phrases I've read related to this give a good hint. Minimum income, guaranteed minimum income, basic income. As these names might suggest, these are payments given to citizens for no other reason than because they are citizens. This brings us to the dreaded S word. So cover young and sensitive ears.
Cover old and sensitive ears.
Those two. Where am I? The solution being promoted for the problem of technological unemployment is socialism. If people cannot earn the money to pay for food and shelter, it is argued money should be given to them. Where will this money come from? The only source of the large sums needed is the U.S. federal government. Some may point out that it is not the source of money, but rather government is the entity that collects and redistributes money. That would certainly be the case with guaranteed or basic income. Just a few days ago, Vox published an article titled, "Why a Bunch of Silicon Valley Investors Are Suddenly Interested in Universal Basic Income." Sam Altman, director of the startup incubator Y Combinator, proposed an experiment where people are given payments that cover their food and housing over several years just to see what they do. Do people sit around and play video games, or do they create new things? Are people happy and fulfilled? Do people, without the fear of not being able to eat, accomplish far more and benefit society far more? This won't be the first test of basic income. Finland is about to give a basic income to a sample portion of its population. These different terms can be confusing, so I'll use definitions from Wikipedia, even though these may not be the same as used in Rise of the Robots. A basic income, or universal basic income, is a fixed amount given to all citizens, regardless of their wealth or income. This is the most straightforward and easiest to implement, as there is no means testing and the only requirement is citizenship. A guaranteed minimum income is paid to those whose income is below a certain amount. This is sometimes called a negative income tax, and implemented on a percentage basis to encourage work. For example, a 50% negative income tax would pay someone with no income the full amount of $10,000 a year, a value used by Ford in his book. This amount would decrease at 50% of the rate that the income from other sources increases, so that as other income goes to $20,000, this guaranteed minimum income would proportionally go to zero. This will require that the government know a person's income, but the IRS already does this. In Rise of the Robots, Ford advocates abolishing welfare, food stamps, the earned income tax credit, housing assistance, and other federal and state entitlements to replace them all with a basic income. This will give substantial cost savings, since not only would other entitlements not be paid, but also the government employees who do means testing and evaluations for entitlement applicants would not be needed. Martin Ford claims this is not socialism. He says how historically a basic income was promoted by conservatives and libertarians, such as noted economist Friedrich Hayek. The argument is that basic income provides a social safety net, as opposed to being a means to reduce income disparity. It would also give recipients the ability to choose for themselves where and how to spend their income, a basic libertarian principle, as opposed to current entitlements that have strong limitations. For example, the food stamp program not only pays only for food, it pays only for specific government-approved foods. Ford gives some approximate dollar figures for his plan. Basic income would cost about $2 trillion a year, but $1 trillion of that will be offset from defunding current entitlements. But what's a trillion or two between friends? Martin Ford and others appreciate how politically unfeasible such plans are, but they also understand that even if mild predictions of long-term job loss become true, something must be done for a large and growing number of out-of-work people. The solutions offered are so far surely go against the grain of many members of the Fellowship of Reason. But what alternatives are there? Perhaps we could find solutions not yet thought of or considered by others. One would certainly hope we can contribute to the marketplace of ideas. To repeat Carl Malden's question, what will you do?
Thank you very much, Ben. Fascinating.